So here's what's going down on the video here on the channel Chardmore. Before I get into the video, please comment, like, and subscribe to the channel Chardmore. But remember to keep your comments decent and non-offensive. And let's get into the video. So today the Senate is expecting to reopen the government today. I don't know how much success they'll have with that. Alright, it sounds like that the government been shut down on October 1st, that morning of October 1st, at 12:01 a.m. in the morning of October 1st, and I don't even know how the Senate is planning on expecting to actually reopen the government. Alright. Well, in my opinion, I think that the government, there might have been somebody must have, was not able to keep the government, the federal government funded to keep the federal government open. That's what I think has actually happened. And you know what? Maybe so. And maybe we've had a traitor in the White House. Maybe we've had a traitor in the Senate or in Congress. I mean, could have been a possibility that might have been the case. I mean, I would like to think that there's been at least some sort of person that actually was not going to keep the government funded. I mean, as much as I like playing accusations and pointing fingers at people, I mean, I don't know. I mean, the only one that knows for sure is, you know, timing. And maybe we'll find out after who hasn't been keeping the government funded, like who shut down the federal government. I mean, well, somewhere around the corner, there's going to have to be an explanation for, you know, why the government was shut down. And this is almost like, it's almost been a week of the government being shut down. So, you know, I just happen to think that perhaps that somebody just didn't want the government, the federal government, still being funded for at least some sort of reason. And all I can do is just, you know, make a guess why this actually happened. I mean, it's officials in the White House and the Senate that's allowed to make the actual reason why the federal government was actually shut down on the morning of October 1st. They're the ones that give the explanations on why it happened. I mean, all I can do is just make the guess as to why. But I don't know the absolute reason why the government, or why the federal government was shut down. I don't know why. I don't know. And like I said, you heard me say this before, but the government, the Republicans and Democrats can point fingers and play the blame game and that stuff, but do we know for sure, or why the government was shut down? Or why the federal government was not funded anymore? And that stuff? No. Nobody knows for sure. Alright? As guesses and rumors and speculations, I mean, they don't help at all. They don't help just to draw conclusions. All they get people to do is, whenever rumor and speculations are out there, it just gets people talking about the whole thing, and then what does it do there? It actually just, it just like solves nothing. I mean, misinformation and propaganda and that stuff, it's just going to just frustrate people. And the more that you listen to misinformation and propaganda, the more that it becomes, the more that it gets people fired up, and then it gets people angry, and it gets people upset, and then some people are like, when they listen to misinformation and propaganda, they're like, oh, so this is why this was shut down and that stuff. When maybe that isn't really the case. Okay, just wait for officials to find out exactly why it was why the federal government was shut down. Instead of listening to this misinformation and propaganda and Fox News, why don't you wait until, like, the actual officials actually give an explanation on why this happened? Alright? I get sick and tired of listening to propaganda and misinformation and that stuff. And this is why I actually trust News Nation. Because News Nation is fact-driven, unbiased coverage. And they're just pretty much, they're like the most accurate news source, and I trust it. And so do I trust MSNBC, NBC News, and ABC News. That's why I do not listen to misinformation and propaganda. Because, like I said, the only thing that misinformation and propaganda is going to do is it's going to get people talking, and then when you hear and listen to it long enough, it gets people fired up, and then it gets people talking non-stop, and then it just becomes like people just become so confused, and then they just like, wait, why did this happen? Why is this happening to the federal government? That stuff. You know what? Because you're listening in the wrong sources. That's why. You're listening in the wrong sources. You're listening to misinformation, propaganda, rumors and speculations, and that stuff. And that I get sick and tired of listening to that crap. You know what? The more that people want to keep on listening to this garbage and trash that floats around social media and that stuff, they can do so. The only thing that's going to do is pretty much just going to get people just keep on talking, just keep on confusing people, and you know what? It's going to be like, you're like, wait, is this the solution to all problems? That stuff? Is this misinformation and propaganda? Is this really what happened? Nah, not really. Not really. At least not what officials would have said what happened, and that stuff. Certainly nothing out of the anchors of Fox News are going to say anything like fact-driven news, because you know what? They are a propaganda and misinformation news source. But yeah. So, yeah. I get sick and tired of listening to misinformation and propaganda all the time. if that's what the people really want to see, like, I get it. I get it in the United States that we can say, like, whatever we want. I get that. Alright? I get it. But it's not good to listen to the wrong source of news all the time. Alright? And that's why I don't trust Fox News. I don't trust them to get the facts out. That stuff. And you know what? Most people that, like Chris Wallace and Shepard Smith, they quit Fox News because why? They're sick of misinformation and propaganda. And that stuff. Now, Chris Wallace just asked, like, the questions. Like, why has this happened and that stuff. He wasn't really much of, like, a misinformation sort of Fox News, former Fox News anchor. Now, I think Chris Wallace was actually, like, more of, like, asking the right questions kind of person. And he appeared on Fox News on Sunday. And he came out and he said he was leaving Fox News because he wanted to try something new. And so now he has a new show on CNN. He has a new show, Who's Talking with Chris Wallace. You can find him on HBO Max. And I love his new position that he's put himself in. And now he's pretty much able to talk about fact-driven stuff, and he's allowed to do what he enjoys, while not being part of a misinformation and propaganda news source. And you know what? There's more and more people that are going to get sick of working at Fox News because they're going to be, at some point, people are going to get sick of, I'm sick and tired of just like this daily misinformation and propaganda and that stuff because it's just making me like upset. People are getting like mad with me. People are getting furious with me and that stuff. And it's about time that I actually just, set the record straight and actually go to like a trusted news source where I can say anything that's fact-driven news. Because I think I'm going to like that better than daily misinformation and propaganda spreading that stuff. Because I don't enjoy that a lot. But, it's whatever. I mean, there are too many people that are listening to misinformation and propaganda and that stuff. And then, if I could say why from what officials actually said why the federal government was shut down and get the facts out in another video, I would appreciate doing so. Because you know what? People need to hear the truth. And I plan on telling people the truth on my channel because that's the stuff that people need to hear. If you don't like the fact-driven news that I actually give you, you can be free to unsubscribe to the channel, Charles Morris. If you think that I'm talking misinformation, gibberish, and that stuff, then you can just unsubscribe. Because you know what? I don't care if this is the United States. Alright? I'd rather tell the facts than lies. And you know what? well, that's just what I have to say. Alright. Yeah. I apologize that people may have not heard what they wanted to actually hear, but you know what? If there are people out there that are watching this video, if they don't like the fact that I won't be spreading misinformation and propaganda, because that's what would get me like millions of views. If I was saying a bunch of misinformation and gibberish and propaganda, then yeah, I would probably get like a lot of subscribers to my channel. I would probably get like, I would meet the 50 requirement for like live streaming on YouTube and that stuff. Yeah, that would be the benefit right there from me spreading like misinformation, propaganda. But you know what? I just wouldn't even do that, because number one, I wouldn't even appreciate it. I wouldn't appreciate telling lies and misinformation and that stuff. I'm not going to do that because, you know, I don't want to make this channel, you know, famous and just look like I'm a smart aleck or anything like that. You know what? I would just look at myself at like, is this really what happened? Am I listening to the right trusted source of news? Did I actually think about this before I actually just had it come out of my mouth? You know what lying does? Lying it just makes people feel guilty. They don't appreciate it. And I'm not going to be lying and spreading misinformation just to make this channel famous. Because, no. I'm going to get the facts right, straight, and that's how it's going to be in my channel. I will gladly be making another video on the government shutdown, like why it was shut down and that stuff. And eventually, here on my channel, I'm planning to, I'm making another video, and I am going to announce why the federal government was shut down. Anyway, that'll be it for the video. If you like what said here, please comment, like, and subscribe to the channel Charles Morse. Again, please remember to keep the comments decent, and I'm not planning on, I hope the government gets back up and running. I hope that the Senate's able to get the federal government funded again, and hopefully it would be a while again when this happens again. This is Charles. Have a good day. I'll see you all in my next video.